On this episode of the Nurse Coach Duo, we welcome Whitney Distefano, who is a board certified nurse coach and the founder of Wellness Within with Whitney. We talk about HeartMath, which is a program that works with the nervous system and works on regulation and resilience. And we talk about Women's Circle and the power of community. Let me tell you a little bit more about Whitney. As a board certified nurse coach, Whitney works with women to navigate stress, reconnect with their inner calm, and live with more clarity and balance and intention. With over 14 years of experience as a registered nurse, Whitney brings a deeply holistic approach to her work, blending her expertise as a HeartMath certified practitioner, mental health first aid instructor, and a registered yoga teacher. Her coaching and heart-focused women's circles offer a safe, supportive space for women to pause, breathe, and realign with what truly matters. Whitney is passionate about helping women regulate their nervous systems, set meaningful boundaries, and build habits that support long-term well-being. Whether she's working with women one-on-one or in local community gatherings, her work is grounded in connection, presence, and purpose. Here we are. Let's go with Whitney.
Before we dive in, just a quick reminder. This episode is for educational purposes only and isn't medical advice. If you're dealing with a health issue, please check in with your healthcare provider. Hi, welcome to the Nurse Coach Duo. I'm Coach Jen, owner of Clarity Health and Wellness Coaching.
Hi, and I'm Coach Angie from Coach Angie. And today we welcome on a fellow board certified nurse coach, Whitney Distefano. And we are so happy to have her with us today on the Nurse Coach Duo. Whitney, as you've already heard in her bio, prior to us starting today, works with women in many different environments, and we're, going to talk about that today. And excited to hear about how you've grown your business and all the different, again, women you're working with. But I think one of the first questions we wanted to start with, which is always, one of my favorite questions as a nurse. How you chose to, or how did you decide to sort of move away from traditional nursing into more of a holistic world of nurse coaching, and eventually start Wellness Whitney, Wellness Within with Whitney. I love that, by the way. And I wrote it down. I'm like, I love that. Wellness Within with Whitney. How did you get here today?
Yeah. Well, first off, thank you both so much for having me. And I like Wellness Within with Whitney as well, but it is a tongue twister, and you should try to say that to someone and have them write it down because it's really a fun game. As far as my transition into nurse coaching, it's interesting. So I have been a nurse since 2011, so 14 years now, and got into nursing because I really was passionate about helping people. And I feel like I worked in many different roles. I did inpatient, hospital hospice. I did oncology nursing at the bedside. I did med surg nursing at the bedside. There were all of these things that I was doing as a nurse, but always felt a disconnect. When I was at home and living my regular life, I was doing all of these things to work towards better health, kind of that term well-becoming that they talk about. I was thinking about what I was eating. I was thinking about how I was sleeping and how I was moving and doing all of these things. And then I would leave normal life. And as you know, if you've ever worked 12-hour shifts, you go and you kind of disappear into other people's lives for 12 hours. And I would get to the hospital and I would see these patients who were sick and struggling with whatever issue it may be. And I felt like we were providing good medical care, but we weren't really providing health care. There was no conversation about health promotion or what they could do differently to make sure they didn't end up in this place again in the future. And I really just for years lived with that feeling of discomfort and knowing I feel like there's something else that I could be doing that could be helpful on a larger scale. And eventually found out about nurse coaching. And I was like, oh man, that's what I like to do. That's what I've been looking for this whole time. And so went through the program with Inca and got board certified. And it's been really great to have the opportunity to work with people in a different capacity. I do both. I'm still working part-time in an oncology clinic and have been able to, in tiny little snippets, have conversations with patients about health promoting behaviors and stress management and that kind of thing. And it's been really fun to start my own business and be able to be with and support people in a way that I think is really at the heart of what Florence Nightingale, if we're throwing it way back, had in mind when nursing became a profession.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my goodness, she was ahead of her time, wasn't she?
Hmm.
You look back at that and you're like, yeah, how are we here now when it all started from
Hmm.
there? Yeah, it's amazing. And I love that, you're saying that you're still at the bedside because I think a lot of people think of nurse coaching in that way. Everybody's going to leave the bedside. And everybody's going to start their new business and everything. And you're doing both.
Hmm.
But I think there's so much that you can learn in that nurse coaching and apply it to your care. So I love that you're doing that. And as I'm hearing you, I'm like, wow, she was really in a couple, some stressful environments when you were working. So it's so interesting to me that now you're like helping people manage their stress. So I think that's such a great little connection there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the heart math that you are using with people. I know you have different modalities of different things that you work with, but I don't know that a lot of people have heard of heart math. If you could tell us a little bit about that, how it helps with the nervous system training, that type of thing.
Yeah, so when I finished my nurse coach program, I'm a multi-passionate person, right? I found myself wanting to talk to people about diet and nutrition and sleep and, overall wellness and boundaries and all of the things. Um, but ultimately kept coming back to one singular thing that most people, especially women, struggled with. I work a lot with moms, right? And some people who are just juggling the needs of all of these people. And the one commonality I was finding was stress and how stress is so pervasive in our culture and how many physical health symptoms and diseases are, at least in some part, caused by stress and maladaptive coping and all of those things. And so HeartMath prior to nurse coaching was new to me. I actually learned
Yeah.
about it through my nurse coach training and then went on to pursue more certifications to become a certified HeartMath coach. HeartMath has been around for 30 years. There is a HeartMath Institute in California where all kinds of research is being done. And HeartMath, at its essence, at least the way that I see it, is a group of self-regulation techniques and strategies. And so, really helping people, not just women, although that's who I tend to work with, understand their stress response, get a greater sense of awareness. So often in life, we're busy, right? Like I'm a
Mhm.
nurse and I'm doing that and I'm busy, and I come home and I'm a mom and I'm doing that and I'm busy. But entering a moment of pause, increasing the level of awareness, and then helping people learn very simple techniques that you can do in real time to help regulate your nervous system. HeartMath talks a lot about this state of coherence that we can get into. And it sounds very woo-woo sometimes, but it's all scientifically and science-based. There have been a lot of studies that the HeartMath Institute has done where they can show tangible outcomes, and they're doing that by measuring heart rate variability, and it gets very sciencey. But the gist of it is you can feel one way. You can spend 30 seconds practicing a very simple heart math technique. And what I love about it is I could be doing it right now, and neither one of you would need to know that it was happening. And at the end of that 30 seconds, you can feel different. Physiologically, there have been changes within your body. Mentally, there are changes. And I really just enjoy teaching those tools and techniques to women. We can't change the world the world is going to be stressful. There are going to be stressors that are there, but what we can change is how we respond. And that's really, I think, what HeartMath is
Amazing.
getting at.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. I'm so glad to bring heart math and the aware, just to know that there's practitioners that are certified in heart math out there. When you meet, your clients come to you, women that want to work with you in all your different environments, what would you say is like the first, when people come and they feel stressed and what does it mean to have your nervous system dysregulated, right? I mean, think we know that, right? But what are the most common complaints, or what are you hearing from women, women of all ages, but maybe even more in midlife?
Mhm. So things that you hear really vary from person to person. One person, when they're really feeling stressed, might feel a feeling of overwhelm, right? Where another person might notice that they're feeling numb and kind of disconnected. It all depends on how they're responding to that stress. Then there's physical manifestations of stress. So then we're getting into, like, for me personally, I'll notice, oh man, my jaw hurts. And then I notice I've been clenching like this all day, trying to, exert any little level of control that I can. It could be a scattered mind. It could be engaging with loved ones in your life in a way that you really don't want to be engaging with them. Namely, somebody comes to you with a question, and instead of you just kindly answering, you're snapping at them. Or perhaps you've been running and running and running all day, and then finally get to where you can relax at night, but you find yourself lying in bed and you have these racing thoughts and you're unable to sleep. And, there's so many different ways that stress can manifest. And one statistic that I saw was that up to 80% of primary care doctor's appointments are at least in some way attributed to stress and the issues that that is presenting in a patient's life, which is
Yeah.
wild to me.
That is wild. I definitely believe that. I mean, I was
Mhm.
in a conference recently and somebody said something about, like, are you stressed? And sometimes I think, no, I'm not stressed. What's he talking about? And then it's like 2 seconds later, I'm losing my mind. It's like, it's like, oh yeah, you are stressed. And we just, like you're saying, you just don't know because it shows up in so many different ways. And I think that especially so, I know you work with women a lot and Angie and I, we really focus on kind of the perimenopause, menopause transition. And there is a real lack of resiliency that occurs during that transition, right? And women start to feel out of control and they don't understand why all of a sudden they can't handle things that they used to be able to handle and why something is just setting them into, like what you say, the overwhelm. I think that's the perfect term, especially for this group, because I find that with so many women when I'm talking to them. But then we still have those women, we're still, right, we're a sandwich generation, right? So we have these women who are sending kids off to college, taking care of if they had younger kids, then rushing off to work and then managing all of that, and then coming home and have to take care of their parents and then making dinner. And it's go, 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 go. So it's so important that we slow down, but we don't find that a whole lot of time. So I know that you have started these heart circles,
Mhm.
which is giving women the permission and the time to take that pause. So tell us a little bit about that, how you're managing those and what you're finding is happening whenever you have these circles.
Yeah, so I have been offering women's circles since I finished my training, which would have been in 2024. And I love women's circles, and I love them for a lot of reasons, namely because many of us are go, go, go and on so much of the time, right? I'm a coach. I know all about burnout and overwhelm and all of the things, and yet I still have a job and a husband and two children with extracurriculars, opposite sides of the world, it feels like. And so even though I insert moments of pause and that type of thing, it's just a busy life.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really important as women to claim time for ourselves when we can. And that was really my idea behind the Women's Circle. So much of, I'll say, my time personally, and a lot of the women that I work with, is very structured. There's always something that we have to be doing for someone else or even for ourselves. But we're human beings, and it's important for us to have time where we're really just existing and resting and perhaps sharing some community with other women who can relate and get it. So these women's circles that I'm doing, I have transitioned to offering them exclusively at a local salt cave.
Oh,
I
nice.
don't know if you guys have those where you are in the world, but we have one here, and man, it's so cool. So you go into the space, and it's Piranha Salt Cave, if anybody is local to Wilmington, North Carolina. But there's just this dreamy room that is filled with Himalayan sea salt. There are bricks on the walls, there is salt on the floor, the lighting is low, and we gather together there. There's typically about six, seven of us. It depends. I like to keep the group small enough that everybody feels heard should they decide to contribute to any kind of conversation. So we do a few things over the course of our time together. We spend some time doing a little bit of heart focused breathing. So if someone has had a very busy day and is now coming to join us in this circle, we spend a little bit of time to help flip into that more peaceful state of mind, doing a little bit of heart focused breathing, really getting into our bodies. And then one of the other certifications that I've collected over my journey is being a registered yoga teacher. And so we incorporate a little bit of a slow yoga flow. That's always interesting because it would be kind of like doing yoga at the beach, right? We don't have a solid surface underneath us. So we're always in there and kind of giggling as we're working through our postures. And we do that flow. And then we end with a time for community and conversation, which is really lovely. And I've had women from, I would say, probably mid 20s up until late 60s within those circles. And what I find really lovely about that is the ability to hear perspectives from other life stages, right? I
Mm.
think sometimes we silo ourselves and it's just my mom friends who are the exact same age as me, who are going through the exact same thing. And we can support one another, and there's a lot that we can do for one another. But then getting to sit down with someone in their 60s who has gotten kids through middle and elementary school, who has gotten them to college, who is now an empty nester, and hearing different perspectives, and then me kind of being the wise old person for someone who's in their 20s who maybe is thinking about starting a family or whatever that might be. And I can be like, oh, yeah, like I've been there. And that shared experience and time to really just connect with no other agenda other than spending time together is really special and lovely.
Oh, I so celebrate that you are doing that. And since I've, become a nurse coach, I've been, introduced to, a lot of different holistic the world that I haven't lived in a lot of my life as a more conventional nurse and just of who I am and how I was raised, right? But women's circles have come up amongst, just in my community. And I think a lot of people don't really understand what happens. And I think it would be, I feel like the more we talk about women's circles,
Mhm.
um, for a couple points, I mean, I love that the whole like intergenerational that experience for women is so important. Um, and I think for men too, right? I mean, for humans to learn
Yes.
from our young and our old, like the people that are not like us, right? Or what, we can learn from. But no, that's really wonderful. I know another sort of arena that you've been more recent certification, and you can share more, is a program actually that I have also taken. I'm certainly not a instructor of it, but it's mental health first aid. And I took it as actually an FQHC that I was working for actually brought our employees there, and we had a day out and did mental health first aid. Can you tell our listeners, a little bit more about that and why you're why you've gotten involved in that.
Sure. Yeah. So I was very fortunate with I call it my normal nursing job. I was very fortunate with my normal nursing job to have the opportunity to take a mental health first aid training. I think it was 3 years ago now. And for those who may not be familiar, because I was not familiar before I became a mental health first aider and then subsequently an instructor, is that mental health first aid is a program that started in Australia 25 years ago and has since made its way to the United States, among other countries. And the goal of mental health first aid is to really help provide awareness for people to better understand early signs and symptoms of mental health challenges and disorders potentially, and then learning what you can do in real time to help support someone who may be having a mental health challenge, experiencing some type of issue there, and then providing that level of support and accountability for them without the stigma that so commonly surrounds mental health, right? If either one of you showed up and you had your arm in a sling, I would ask you, like, hey, what happened to your arm? Are you okay? Like, what's the plan? What's going on? But if somebody came and was struggling with a mental health issue, we would feel much less comfortable having that conversation, which then just further stigmatizes anyone struggling with any mental health issues. But the reality is, in any 1 year, 1 in 5 people will have experienced a mental health challenge. And over the course of a lifespan, that number changes to 1 in 2. And so I'm very passionate as someone who has struggled with anxiety and depression for most of my life to help educate others, reducing that level of stigma, and then helping provide that training to people. Right now, I teach for the healthcare organization that I work for, which is amazing,
Oh, that's
helping
wonderful.
yeah, helping healthcare workers really understand on a deeper level some support that they could provide. And a lot of it's very simple, it's listening, it's acknowledging that you're noticing a change and then really encouraging people to seek help when they need it and encouraging people to practice self-care.
Yeah.
Right? That's how we end the course is talking about the importance of caring for ourselves. And then that comes back to the women's piece, right? And the nursing piece and how we, at least myself and many of the women that I work with, feel like we are the helpers and we are the ones who are helping others. And then we forget that we also deserve the care that we so freely give to others. So it really ties in with everything that I do. I haven't branched
Mhm.
out and offered mental health first aid classes outside of my normal nursing job, but it's not something that I have completely ruled out as a possibility moving forward.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and the 1 in 5, it actually kind of surprises me. Like, of course that's a big number, but I feel like it was
Mhm.
so much more. I feel like it's
Yeah.
so, it's got to be more. And I wonder if that's because, there is still that stigma. It's people aren't
Mhm.
admitting that it's a mental health struggle.
Mhm.
People flippantly go, oh, I have anxiety, or oh, I have ADHD, or oh, I have this, and it's very flippant, like about how they're feeling at that moment. And I think that kind of dampens down the real issue for some,
Mhm.
but also are they recognizing that, yeah, they may actually have that, an issue and they're not really addressing it. So I do wonder if those numbers are actually low. So very interesting. So can you tell me, as you kind of alluded to some of the tools that you teach, those types of things without, giving away your whole program or anything like that, what are a couple of things that our audience and Angie and I could take away to help manage those, stressful days, those days that we're just go, 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 or when we're having that feeling of overwhelm.
Mhm. Yeah, those are good questions. I think one thing that's really important and one of the biggest takeaways that I had from the training that I received in my nurse coach training program was the importance of, as best you can in this world, living a life that's in alignment with your values and your vision for what you would actually like your life to be. And so often, I think we get caught up in the shoulds of what we think we should be doing and what other people are expecting of us. But getting clear on what matters to you And then slowly and incrementally over time, trying to make choices and decisions that help lead you in that direction. So if you're not clear on that, there are a lot of, vision and values prompts out there. I have some that I'm always happy to share, but they exist. And then starting by setting even just very small boundaries. Maybe it's you're feeling overwhelmed at work and you feel like you're not really getting the time that you need within a workday to care for yourself. The workday is still going to be there. The work is going to be there, but perhaps you could do something very small. Like, you know what? I'm going to get off this call. I'm going to finish with this patient in the hospital, and then I'm going to take 15 seconds to stand here, take a couple deep breaths, claim just a very small moment for myself, getting back into your body, and then entering your next interaction just a little bit more in tune with yourself and engaged. Yeah. Small steps over time can add up to really big change.
Absolutely. Yep. One step at a time.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's so important to think about that. And we wanted to talk a little bit about boundaries and how we set them. So you sort of leading into this next question. I think, I think people want to set boundaries, but they just don't know how to do that. And I think, we're not going to figure that out today on this podcast. But I mean, I think it is interesting to start the conversation and how, it's really about, like you said, if you want to get up from your desk after a call, it's setting that intention, right? For that time period. Like, so it's really waking up and, as you start your day and thinking about how you are going to set the boundary that you've chosen, right? But it can
Mhm.
all feel very overwhelming, especially for women, period. And then women
Mhm.
in midlife, as we've already touched on, of all the different things that we're trying to do and accomplish and feel good at the same time.
Yeah.
So, um, what is I'm just curious. So like when you work with your clients, your women, setting, to start to set boundaries, what is one of those first steps that you would give to someone? And in yeah, what's that first step? What is that one first small step that maybe one of your favorites?
So the first small step, which might feel like a big step, is to really think about where you might need to set a boundary. So increasing that level of awareness, and there's a lot of ways that you can do that. It can just be reflecting on your last couple days, or I often use with clients the stress and well-being assessment, right? Where they're really looking at various aspects of their life and then seeing, oh, family life is great, but work life is very stressful. Or conversely, work is great, family life is, whatever it is, like whatever area is really causing you a lot of stress. And then thinking about what small change you could make in that area. From personal experience, my children are a little bit older now, but when they were very small, I stayed home during the week and would work on the weekends as a nurse. And so during the week, I was a stay-at-home mom and really found myself in this period of martyrdom, I would call it, right? I was with the kids all day, I was up with them at night, yet I still felt guilty asking for any amount of time for myself, which I knew I so desperately needed in order to care for myself to better show up for them.
Yep.
And so one small thing that I started with was like asking for help from my husband and not, I'm going away for the weekend, although that would have been amazing. But when you get home, I'm going to go on a walk for 15 minutes because I need a break. And just setting that boundary of recognizing like I need time, being clear in what I needed, and then asking for that help, and then following through. When it's the next day and he comes home, and yeah, I'm kind of up here because I need just a few minutes, asking for that help, setting that boundary, telling the kids, I love you. You're not coming with you. You're not coming with me. We already went on a
Yeah.
walk today.
Yeah.
You can join me after my 15 minutes. But for right now, I'm just going to take a couple minutes for myself. And knowing that that's not selfish, that's really an act of like self-preservation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's so true. I was
Yeah.
actually just talking to my sister yesterday, and we were both just having one of those days. And I'm like, there's nothing wrong in my life. Why am I so stressed out? And it's like, it's like, it's okay. It's not about comparative suffering, right? Like, it's
Mhm.
okay to just recognize I need time by myself, or I need to take a pause. And I love that, like, just in you saying that, it's literally giving the people who are listening permission to
Mhm.
recognize and take care of themselves. I think sometimes the recognition is the hardest part. Like it's like that's the first step, right? Start to become
Mm-hmm.
aware of what's going on in your body and what's happening, and then take the next step. Because boundaries and change and all these things, those are four-letter words to people, right? They're
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
like, don't tell me to do that. Yeah, so I'll tell you, Whitney, like just sitting here, like just talking to you, like you have such a beautiful, calm presence. So I thank
Mm-hmm.
you for that. I mean, I know I feel calmer just from sitting here talking to you. And I also think that your social media represents that and brings that forward. So please tell our audience where they can find you, where they can get some of your calm and goodness into their day.
Yeah, thank you. So I have a website. It is www.wellnesswithinwithwit.com, which is very hard to type into Google. But good luck. You can certainly give it a try. And then I show up primarily on Instagram from a social media standpoint. And so that's at Wellness Within with Wit. So I'd
Great.
love people to join me there.
Yeah, and we'll put those links in the description. So don't worry about typing it in and getting it wrong. We'll have all that information in the description.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Winnie, do you do virtual work? Or are you in person with your clients? I
I
mean,
have
besides, I know your women's circle is in person. I get
Yes.
that.
Women's
Yeah.
circles are in person, but
Yes.
everything else that I do has been virtual thus far. So I find that that works well because my coaching calls are typically about 50 minutes in length. And so most of the people I work with are very busy women, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so having that virtual offering is nice
Mm-hmm.
because you can have your busy life and then maybe on your lunch break pop into a coaching
Mm-hmm.
call or whatever that may be. And we're able to kind of make things work pretty well from there. Maybe one day I'll have an in-person space in a different season of life, but for me right now it's virtual.
That's lovely. Everybody, I agree. People love the virtual. I mean, like I do. I know
Yeah.
that if I don't have to leave my house, that's the best
Mhm.
thing. So, well, Angie knows that I don't like to leave the house. But well, thank you so much, Whitney, for your
Yeah.
time. This has really been fantastic. I really
Yes.
appreciate you bringing all of this information to our audience. And if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you give it a like, add a comment, and as always, please remember to subscribe so that you can follow the rest of our episodes and hear from all of our experts. Thank you very much.
Great.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Whitney.
Yeah, thank you.